Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And if you're not a member, please consider joining us as members of the Jewish Historical Society, especially if you enjoy programs like this, like we all do. I've been looking forward to tonight for a long time. I hope you guys have as well. The Crown Market has been such an important part of our community in the Hartford area for so many of us, and I'm thrilled that we're hosting this event tonight to celebrate its history. Like so many of you, I feel like I grew up in the aisles of the Crown. My grandmother, Sylvia Koch, would delight in taking me as a toddler and a young child to the Crown, and we'd run into so many people that she would show me off to. I think my mom did that as well. It's one of my favorite memories of her and how happy she would be on these. And I have to admit, when my son Barack was born, my wife and I would do the same thing. Bring him to the Crown, run him to folks, following the tradition of my grandmother and my mother, like so many of our grandmothers and our parents. Of course, other favorite recurring thoughts about the Crown are about how special their delicious food is, how so many generations have enjoyed it, and we continue to make sure to get our weekly challah and rye bread, as well as the best cucumber salad that I still crave. My wife, Deb, likes to say that I wooed her with the Crown. As we were dating and she was living in New York City, she wasn't sure what living in the Hartford area was going to look like. But just before she went home after her first visit, I took her to the Crown to buy a sandwich for the ride home, and she's been hooked ever since, again, like so many of us. And finally, the Crown has been blessed with very talented leadership for generations. And I believe the current group of owners, led by Henry Zaks, Alan Lazowski, and Brian Newman, along with 50 other owners, including Mark Seltzer, who will lead us through our journey tonight, represent our community at its best. Folks have stepped up when there was a need, and that we were so lucky to have such generous people who believe so much in what is important to protect and nurture in our community. We love the Crown, and we love going to the Crown. So please, thank you so much for joining us to hear about the continuing story of the Crown Market. I know you will enjoy tonight's program as much as I will. And now it's my pleasure to give you back to Beth Rose, our Executive Director. Enjoy.
Thanks, Lance. So I'm just going to share a few photographs that we have in our archives, just to whet your appetite, so to speak, for what Mark Seltzer is going to be talking about. And we will have an opportunity later in the program to share, to ask questions about the history of the market, current operations, and to share memories. I'd love to hear more along the lines of what Lance just shared, which is wonderful. So just a quick tour from our archives. I think you saw this in our publicity for tonight's program, is the grand opening in 1940 of the Crown Market. And this is an ad in the Hartford Current that I was able to find recently. And so we know that means that the Crown is 81 years old this year, which is a pretty great thing. And I'd like to thank a member of the Smith family who reminded me that this photograph of the Butchers of Hartford includes Crown founder Sam Smith all the way on the right. So that's an earlier photograph before Crown Market was around. These are two advertisements that I found in the Jewish Ledger from the 1950s. So you can see what the prices were in those days and what was being advertised. Yeah. This is a shot from the interior of the market on Albany Avenue. I don't have a date specifically on that one. And a second one of the counter, the fish and meat counter, looks like. And then, of course, the store moved to West Hartford in 1967. And the picture on the right will probably look fairly familiar to you. And this is a photograph, I believe, from the 1980s of people shopping for Passover with lots of matzah. In the background, this is a recent picture from a Hartford Current story in 2014, one of the happy shots from inside the bakery, and a great picture of Henry Zaks with Sherry Cantor in a Hartford Current story about the revitalization of the Crown, as Lance was describing. So I'm going to stop sharing that and hand it over to Mark Seltzer. Oh, Mark, you need to unmute. Mark, you're still muted. Can you unmute?
Okay, is that better?
That's better, yep.
Okay. Thank you, Beth, for your introduction, and Lance, thank you for your comments. And I do recall seeing your young son, Barack, and Deb many, many times in the store shopping. So we thank you for that. I also am aware that I believe Alan Smith and Bill Sloat are on the Zoom, and I certainly would welcome any of their clarifications at some point if they have more vivid recollections of things in the manner in which I'm going to speak. So the store was originally started in 1940. My first recollection, it was between Irving and Magnolia Street on Albany Avenue. That was really the center of Jewish living. There were other businesses. It was, you would almost call it like a modern day strip mall. Next to the Crown, there was a Judaica shop, a Dunkin' Donuts, and a barber shop. Immediately to the right and above the Crown was a provision company called Kosher Best. They were making hot dogs and all types of provisions that they sold to the public and other stores, if I'm not mistaken. So the Crown then was instituted, and the meat department, I believe, was the draw for people to come to the Crown. The meat, the bakery, and the fish were owned by the three men. The grocery, the produce, and the fish counters were concessions, which were run by individuals. Also, some of the family members who were there were running and working at the time. Extended family was a major part of some of the employment that was started at the Crown. Brothers, relatives. There were, you know, an influx of people coming from Europe, and this was really where a lot of the people got their starts and the expertise that we were able to garner. The founders then were, it was run as the three ownership departments, but as I mentioned, the meat was the draw, and the meat was brought in from Philadelphia under the Sam Smith, who was really the expert in the meat purchasing. Jack Sloat was the poultry king. He owned Way Best. The meat would come in on trailers, and they would come in on hooks. The animals were slaughtered in such a way that they were rolled into the store on hooks, into the store. And then full service meat was the way at the time. Customers would come up to the meat counter, order what they wanted. It would be cut in the back and then presented to the customer. I remember in the back, there was sawdust on the floor. There were butcher block tables. It really was the full service that the customer was after. I can also recall a friend telling me that when his family was moving here from New York, her first question was, well, where am I going to shop and get kosher meat? Well, she called a friend who lived here. That friend introduced her to Sam Smith, who became her liaison to kosher food. And I believe that's how a lot of people started shopping at the Crown. In those days, there was the blue laws. We were closed, of course, on the Sabbath, where other stores were open. We were then open on Sundays, and the other stores were closed. So there was a little bit of equality as far as the way the business was distributed. I can also recall on Sundays, it was so busy that there used to be a foot traffic policeman who would be in the store several hours during the day to make sure things were running okay. There were also other businesses in the area on Albany Avenue. M's Bakery, Platt's Deli, Weinstein Mortuary. Synagogues were all within the walking distance. and the predominant population of the Jewish group lived in the Blue Hills Avenue area and the Albany Avenue area. We then decided, I say we, the second generation of ownership, Ralph Seltzer, Marvin Kramer, Alan Smith, and Bill Sloat, decided to move the store in '67 to a location in West Hartford, based on the fact that the neighborhood was transitioning. As people were moving west, the fellas felt it was best to move along with them. So they located the current location, which was an old popular supermarket. They outfitted it to the way they needed to have it done, and they moved up in '67. That was a big gamble and a big risk. I know at the time they must have been a little bit nervous. The second thing that they had to come up with that was somewhat of a gamble was the meat department. They turned it from a full service meat department into a self-service, where meat was still butchered on site, freshly cut, and poultry, but it was now wrapped and packaged and put in cases that people would walk by and pick up as they needed. The customers, as is the case today, can still order custom made and custom cuts by calling ahead. But this was a very big change. The other stores were doing it in a similar fashion, and I think the guys felt this was the right way to go. The departments were all owned at this time by the ownership, so there were no more individual concessions. The quality and service provided by the leadership and the owners of the Crown really is what separated them from other stores, besides the fact that they were kosher. We were a smaller footprint, so people could come in and get out in a relatively shorter amount of time. The quality around all the perishable departments was superior to what the other stores could offer. And I think people appreciated this. There were many, many people who still to this day will come in the store and say that my first job was at the Crown when I was in high school or college. I remember as a high school kid, there were waiting lists to get jobs. That's how popular of a store it was, and people really wanted to partake. It was the center, again, of Jewish life. Synagogues developed, the population increased. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the mid-'80s, there was another monumental change to the business. Alan's wife, Paula Smith, was instrumental in putting together what we termed the 5 o'clock shop. This would now be a creation of homemade kosher foods made on site from only the freshest ingredients. Vegetables were all freshly bought, chopped, and peeled in the store. Everything was made
I can't get this back.
in the kitchen. And it became a very big piece of the business, as in that time there were many more working women. There was a tremendous need for kosher take-home food, and as the 5 o'clock shop increased in its size, we were doing life cycle events, bar and bat mitzvahs, baby namings, shivas. We also supplied the synagogues and agencies with foods. It was also the belief of the fellows who were running the store to support every Jewish institution that they possibly could. They were as giving with their resources as they could be, their expertise in helping. I know the Hebrew Home at the time was in a different location, and they were helpful in securing purveyors and giving them any information that they could use. So that was in the mid-'80s. As the second generation was looking to retire. They sold to an individual proprietor who then ran the store for a period of, I want to say 7 or so years. At that time, after those years, he decided that he wanted to get into another line of work. So what he did was, and I'll never forget, he called us into his office on a Monday morning, and he told us it's 3 to 4 weeks from now, we're going to be closing. Well, once word hit on social media, Facebook exploded, everybody was talking, and we couldn't believe it. Well, I think, as you heard at the beginning, Henry Zaks, Alan Lazowski, and Brian Newman spearheaded the saving of the Crown. There were people literally from all over the country who were responding. How could this happen? We can't let this happen. Well, those 3 gentlemen were able to garner the support of over 50 investors, which I still, to this day, it's such a heartfelt story to be made into a movie. And they created a board of directors who over time gave us guidance and beyond what we could ever expect in resources. They were just angels and continue to be angels. We owe such a debt of gratitude. A big decision was then rendered by the board that the store would then change its kashrut from conservative to orthodox. This was designed to enable every Jewish person in the area to shop at the Crown. They wouldn't have to go to another store to buy kosher food. Of course, some people were happy, some not so happy. To this day, it still is an issue for some people, but I believe it was the right call, and I think the community has embraced us. We have been able to cater large community events, 400 to 500 people, weddings, anniversary parties, bar and bat mitzvahs. We also, at this time, have added 2 people to the Crown staff who've embellished and added much to our catering department. Andrea Gussack, whose family was in the business for many years, and Meredith Abel of Able Catering. So those 2 young ladies are now moving us into a new domain. We will now be able to do work from Westchester County to Boston and anywhere in between. We currently now serve people in Albany, New York once a month with deliveries. We also go to Natick, Newton, Worcester, and Springfield once a month. We also go to East Greenwich, Rhode Island, New London, New Haven, and Norwich once a month. People can order online or they can call the store and we deliver to central locations. And I should probably have also at some point mentioned there were stores in New Haven and Springfield in the earlier days. Again, because of transitioning neighborhoods, it didn't make sense to continue operations in those locations. But people from those Springfield area, Longmeadow, New Haven, Fairfield County would come to the West Hartford store, pick up food and take it home. I know people who live in the Berkshires, either in the summer or the winter, they call ahead and they can get their orders put together, and once a month, once a week, be sure to have quality kosher food wherever they may be. The last piece of what I would like to talk about was, like everybody in this world, we were turned upside down with the pandemic. All of a sudden, people were no longer able to or felt comfortable coming into the store. So we were pivoting ourselves in the best way that we could with the limited technology that we have. We went online and we put a lot of our items on there. We were able to deliver to people's homes, and we also shopped orders and for pickup at curbside. we felt that people who were vulnerable and elderly, who couldn't come in or didn't want to come in, it was our obligation to continue doing this for them. I would also be remiss if I didn't thank, again, our angels. I call all our investors angels, the board of directors, our staff, who we also have running, for years. We have people there, 30, 35 years. We are currently under the leadership of Jay Dollinger, who has done a tremendous job of turning the store around in the last year and a half. And last, but certainly not least, the customers, all of the loyal people from all over who shop. And we know today is a different world, that you can't buy everything in one place. But certainly if there's anything you can buy at the Crown, we really would love to see you in there, so we can have this for our children and our grandchildren. And the last thing I would say is, I also want to thank my wife and children, who have put up with some pretty rogue hours over the years. As I'm sure the other families who have been in this business know, it requires a tremendous amount of time away from them at different times. And like everybody, we all work strenuous hours, but they were very, very supportive. And all the people who preceded us, the grandparents, the second generation, the family members who worked through the third generation, and any relatives who, I'm just the last guy standing, but there were many, many people. Brian Kramer, Jeff Winnick, all the people who put in countless years and really made the store what it is. And I guess that's probably about as much as I can say at the moment. And Billy and Alan, if they're on the line, Beth, maybe you can let them come in and say a few things, because I'm sure they have a little bit to add, or a lot to add.
Thank you so much, Mark. Yeah, if there's any members of the of those families that would like to say anything about their experience with the Crown, you're welcome to unmute and join in the conversation. And everybody else, if you would like to either to ask any questions of Mark, or to share any memories or thoughts, you can put those into the chat, and just so we don't have everybody speaking at once, and I'd be glad to kind of pass those along to Mark one at a time.
This is Josh Smith. I am Alan Smith's son, and I am zooming in from San Francisco. I don't think Alan is on the call. He couldn't be on the call today, but I'm sure if he was able to be on the call, he would express his incredible appreciation for all the warm words and all the amazing memories. And as was said, there was a lot of long hours. And those of us in the family remember those long hours and checking the coolers on Saturdays and so on and so forth. So thank you very much for everything. And on behalf of Alan, just want to say we really appreciate all the support and the great memories. Thank you. Thank you,
Josh. We have at the Historical Society, we do have an interview with Alan where he showed a lot of his memories of the business over the years, and that's a great historical record. So we definitely appreciate having that.
Okay. Hi, this is David Seltzer, Mark's younger brother. Hats off to you, Mark, for a great presentation. And I don't know, maybe perhaps because I am a lawyer, I feel it's worth noting that some here may not know that Crown actually made it to the Supreme Court in a case they were involved in. And Mark touched on it earlier with regard to being open on Sundays rather than Saturdays. I don't really know the entirety of it, other than that in 1960 something, because it was the Springfield store Massachusetts had what were then called blue laws about businesses being able to operate or not operate on Sundays. And Crown was sued for being open on Sundays because it was in violation of the blue laws. And it went all the way up to the Supreme Court, who at that time, I'll say unfortunately for Crown, whether it's fortunate or unfortunate in the long run is a different issue. They lost because the court found that it was not specifically a religion-based law, but it was just a commerce law, and that businesses were entitled to be closed for a day. And that was what the state of Massachusetts deemed an appropriate law. And so it stood. And so I don't even know if Crown in Springfield stayed open long enough to ever survive into a Sunday opening, but there's the Supreme Court history of Crown Market.
Thank you, David. I did run across that case in our files, and it was in 1960.
There you go.
The court did rule against them, but it seems that the state of Massachusetts shortly thereafter did amend its blue laws. So that did come about to change a few years later, it seems like. It was a really interesting role that the Crown played in,
Right.
in that law. Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got a couple comments in the chat about relatives who drove far away from New York to the Crown each week to get food for Shabbos. People have been shopping at the Crown for many decades. I think the multi-generational nature of the business, both in terms of its ownership and its role in the community, is something that really stands out to so many people. If other people would like to share, you could either raise your hand and I'll try to scroll through and see your hands, or feel free to put a question into the chat. We just had a question about asking, is the Crown financially successful at present? So Mark, is that something that you could address?
Yeah, I would say the doors are open. We're purchasing product. We're receiving customers daily. We are making it work. Again, it is a relative question, but we certainly need more support. But yes, we're open for business. We plan to stay open for business, but we really would love to see either people who have not been in for a while, people who have, if they're mad about something, we hope they get over it. We need everybody in some way or another. If this institution, which it really is to stay in the community and serve other people besides the local community. I think sometimes, I hear from people that come in that are relatives of, they live either in Philadelphia or they live somewhere in Cleveland. Oh, we wish we had a Crown like this. We wish this, we wish that. And here I think we sometimes take for granted some of the, I don't know what the right word is with the way the store is, but no, to answer the question, yes, we're okay, but we would love to see the other people come in and help us out. Thank you for the question.
Absolutely, yeah, it's so easy to take things for granted when they've been part of the community for so long, but that's a great answer. I think Bob Fishman said he had a question. Bob, would you like to unmute?
Hi, Mark.
Hey, Bob.
Very nice presentation.
Oh, thanks, man.
I had two things I wanted to mention, and the second one is a question. When Susanna Heschel did her presentation about her father, you probably know that she went to Trinity College, and she spent many hours with Rabbi Kessler and with the Denise and Norman Mann family. And the first thing she said on the program was, I hope the Crown is still alive. It's one of the best things I remember about my years in Hartford, Connecticut. That was, so you can take a lot of knock us in that.
Thank
Mark,
you.
my late mother-in-law, B. Shawalski Hoffman, had a card, a Crown card, and I think it was for the purpose of cashing checks
Yep.
in the old days on Albany Avenue, and she kept that card.
Wow.
And one day I was with her at the Crown. She pulls out the card, and one of your old time workers says, "Nobody uses this card anymore, Mrs. Hoffman." And I look at it, and the number on the card is number 8, like they were numbered of how many were distributed. But I just wanted you to comment about that the use of the card in those days.
Yeah, you know what, Bob? I would have to say, going back to Albany Avenue, I was just a young squirt. I don't remember the card there, but there were cards that were used in the West Hartford store. It was for, I want to say preferred customers, people that didn't have to go through the, phone numbers and all the different things of cashing a check or presenting a check. So it was a, people had it. And now we don't even take checks anymore.
Yeah.
It's just, it's too risky. So
Under checks.
that may be worth money someday. Go on eBay.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you guys take Bitcoin yet?
There were a lot
Yeah.
of things she saved, but that wasn't one of them we could find.
I bet. Okay, thanks, Bobby.
I see we had a question from Marshall or Sandy.
Yes.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Marshall. Hi, Sandy.
Hi there.
Hi.
I just thought I would help and identify a couple of people in one of the early photos that you showed, Beth. There were 2 women and a gentleman. The gentleman was Sid Robin from Robin's Delicatessen.
Yeah,
He was in the gentleman in the trench coat.
right.
And the beautiful young woman was Mark's sister, Linda. And the other woman looked familiar, but I couldn't identify her. And Mark, you'll be happy to know that Bill Sloat saved my marriage. I've been married almost 51 years. In 51 years, I've only bounced 1 check, and that was at the Crown. It was for $25, and Billy very tactfully. Billy also graduated high school with Marshall, but Billy called Marshall and notified him. It was all handled very discreetly.
And I would just like to add that I grew up. I was born on Woodland Street in Hartford. Well, I was born at St. Francis Hospital, but I lived on Woodland Street in Hartford, and I've been eating Crown food for now 82 years, and I'm still here. So that speaks a lot for what the Crown has done.
That's a great testament, Marshall. Thank you.
Marshall, I just have to add, I presume that after that check bounced, he gave Sandy a little bit of an instruction from your background of an accountant.
I hope he gave me a raise in my allowance. Never mind.
Yeah.
I don't remember, honestly, I don't remember a thing about it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we had a question back in the chat from Alan about how long the stores in Springfield and New Haven stay to open. Or can you talk a little bit more about those other locations?
Yeah. Well, I remember the locations. New Haven was Whaley Avenue. I don't remember the number.
There's a CVS there now.
No, it's not CVS. It changed. It's now a Dollar General. The
You're right.
CVS sold it. And the Springfield store was Sumner Avenue. Because I used to go with my grandfather on Mondays. He used to, when I was on school vacation, he sometimes would go up there to take a look at what was going on, and I'd ride in the car with him. I don't recall the years. I don't know if Bill's on and he would, but I don't.
Springfield, I don't know. I feel like New Haven was maybe like 88, 89.
I
found 85 in our notes for New Haven, but I don't know about Springfield.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
Yeah,
And were those stores run, I mean, were they were
They
run?
were run and owned by the gentleman, you know, who
Okay.
owned the
Yeah.
Hartford store. Yeah,
Yeah, so that was a busy time, okay.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Jeff Winnick, you had your hand up.
Hi,
Okay.
how are you, Mark?
Hey, Jeff.
I just want to say,
Hey, Linda. I see you now. Yep.
Mark had mentioned, I had the pleasure of working at the Crown for 30 years before I left. And I was brought in by Marvin Kramer as my original introduction into the store. And as I met many people, amongst which is most important, met my wife there. And of course, worked with many people who I have very fond memories of. And I look at the screen now and I see many people who I recognize as customers over 20, 25 years ago. And one thing that I thought was very pertinent at the time was that the Crown, especially on Sunday, was the place for politicians to shake hands. We had appointment book so that Republicans and Democrats wouldn't cross over and be there at the same time.
Exactly.
But many well-known politicians. I remember Abe Ribicoff and Mr. Blumenthal. And many well-known figures in the political world made it a point to be there and to embrace the Jewish crowd. But many of my fondest memories are from the many years that I spent there. And I wish God bless and just keep plugging away.
Be around many more.
Yep.
Yes.
Rose?
Great comments, Jeff.
Thank you. Phil Handler's had his hand up for a little bit.
Well, I know Sandy just knew who that was because he was a neighbor of ours on Penn Drive. Right, Sandy? Ronick?
Absolutely, right down the street.
Right. Yeah, we have to stick up for the people in that neighborhood. My daughter was worked in high school. She was one of the lucky ones that got a job at the Crown, working as a cashier. She's got it. Unfortunately, she's now a physician. So, you have to take a break. You got to move down the line. Now that she had the top job, now she had to move down to practicing medicine for 20 years.
Well, she had good training, Phil, there, I'm sure.
I'm sure that's how she got through medical school. Yes. Thanks.
Thanks, Phil. I see a note that Sidra Sperling would like to say something. Would you like to go ahead?
Yes, I'm 89 years old now. And when I was in first grade in Northwest School, my class went on a field trip to see the first kosher supermarket in Connecticut. And our whole class went there. And we were so amazed how everything was in one store. And I never forgot that memory. I think that Al Smith's son was in my class. That's why the teacher took us there. And we walked from Northwest to Magnolia Street. And that was one of the best field trips.
Must have taken you 10 minutes.
Wonderful, thank you. I'm seeing that maybe, is it Wilma Nishbal wanted to say something?
Yes, it is. I'm here in California. Jack Sloat was my uncle. He was married to my father's sister, Sylvia. I don't believe we ever came back from a trip to Hartford without carrying a salami on the airplane. And I know for sure that when you get two people together from Hartford, the first thing they ask for is, do you know where the Crown is? And the second thing is, where were you during the Hartford fire? Two very important things, but those were wonderful memories. And of course, Bill and I stay very close together. So, well, all is good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joseph Levy.
Hi there.
Hey, my buddy Joey. Joe, how are you,
Greet-
man?
Greetings from Los Angeles.
Yes, Joe.
Mark, well done. I
Joe,
remember the
you're the best.
days. I remember the days when my father had a store directly across the street on Albany Avenue. On one side was my father on the corner of Magnolia, and then on the other side was Platt's Delicatessen.
Right.
And that place always had the most steamed windows because of the corned beef and pastrami that they were doing up. It was just a really wonderful, secure time in all of our lives when the Crown was down there. And then across diagonal from that, across the street from you was Bernie Bowers with State Sales.
Right.
Joan Bowers appliance store.
Yes,
guy.
you're right, Joe.
But I just wanted to just chime in with some of those great memories. And then right down the street on Garden Street, I was telling Jamie last time, my father was the president of the Sephardic congregation of Hartford, Connecticut.
Mhm.
And he was president for about 40 years. And then they also moved to West Hartford from Garden Street as everybody made the trek west.
Yes.
Great times though. But well done, Mark. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe. Good to see you. We get together soon.
Absolutely. Take care.
Thank you so much. Audrey Yanofsky, I see your hand up over there.
Yeah, I've been shopping at the Crown. I'm the one who said 61 years since I was a baby. My parents, moved to Colebrook Street in Hartford off of Bill Hills Avenue, and they kept kosher. And we used to go shopping at the Crown every Sunday. And all I can tell you is my very first memory of the Crown, when I was probably 2 years old, my parents had me in the carriage, and I would point at the cereal. It was Captain Crunch that you had, on the shelf, because I saw it in a commercial on TV. And my mother said, gee, what good placement they have. And she even knew that back then, because when you have a kid in a carriage that's sitting in the front part, their eyesight is at that aisle where they want all of the good stuff, like the cookies and the cereal. And that's what supermarkets do. And my mother knew that back then. It was kind of funny. But I remember also that Mayron's Bakery was right down the street. My parents, my father and I would go to Mayron's Bakery, and I remember you could buy a cake for 99 cents. But and M's Bakery was down the other side of the street. But I mean, we always went to the Crown every single Sunday, and I still do. So it's a great place. Thank you.
Thank you much. And you know what, Audrey? My grandparents lived at 15 Colebrook Street.
Oh, wow. That's so funny. We lived on 167.
Yeah. Small world.
Small world.
In Hartford.
Mark, I'm curious, when the store moved to Bishop's Corner, what else was around? What stores were around there in Bishop's Corner at that time?
Okay, well, right next to us, there was a Mayron's Bakery, where the Cleaners is now. Where Starbucks is, there was Liggett's Drugstore. And then after a while, I believe there was a bank there.
It was
TV.
It was Fish Market.
Hayes Fish Market, right?
Hayes Fish, yes.
Right next door.
That came in after, I believe, a little bit after we did. Because they were on Albany Avenue also.
Yeah.
Which of course, in that space was of course Sam and Jack's for a few minutes.
That's right. I didn't even mention that. That was a blessed memory, so we didn't really want to go there.
Right.
And then of course, Wall Bombs was where Big Y is.
Right.
There was a clothing store where the pet store is, Anderson Little. Where Walgreens is was a First National. Service Merchandise is where Whole Foods is. And where Staples is was Stop and Save.
Right. It was also.
We've outlived all the stores all these years because of the kosher niche, obviously, but they've all come and gone. So.
And then Bradley's on the backside of Service Merchandise.
Bradley's, right.
Right, and Lord and Taylor was.
Lord and Taylor, right.
That's a big draw.
Yeah. There was an electronics store.
Kosher deli, like a little restaurant, kosher delicatessen restaurant right next door or Kay's Market was. Do you remember that?
Salmon
Yeah,
Jack.
just meant that Salmon Jacks.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah,
yeah,
Golders was also at the corner.
right.
At
Yeah.
one time.
Skolars, right?
On the corner.
right.
Maxwell.
They moved, that's right. They moved also up the avenue from Farmington. That's
Avenue.
right.
Maxwell Drug there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
Also,
Nava.
at
Here one.
Friendlies. Was it
yeah,
Friendly?
Friendlies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
friendly.
Friendly. Yeah.
Caldor.
Oh, there was the Village Clothing Store. It was a women's clothing store.
Yes. Harmax was there. men's
Right.
store.
Yeah, Friedman. Oh,
Oh, my-
yeah. That's,
Yeah.
Also, there was a clothing
Pier
store
one.
that I used to go to when I was a teenager called Hit or Miss. That's where Panera Bread is now.
okay. Yeah. Oh,
There
yeah.
was also there was an electronics store where
Lafayette.
Coma restaurant is now. I
Uh-huh.
think it was called
Lafayette Electronics. Lafayette.
Yeah, right. And Bishop's Pharmacy was there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Goldstein, is Delicatessen?
Pier 1.
Yep.
Kitchen, etc.
Yeah, Dino's. Someone just said David Smith. said
Dino's.
Dino's.
Yeah, and
Right on the
Goldstein-
back.
The bowling alley. Right.
Goldstein's
Yeah.
Deli there.
Oh, yeah, we used to get in trouble there pretty good.
Yeah.
Let me break in for a sec. I think that
Next,
under the
next
name
to
of
Gold.
John, Takaroff was
Goldstein.
trying to say something.
Danny,
fine.
Yeah, next to Goldstein was Dino's
Right.
and then the bowling alley.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Sakurab. I'm sorry, I can't see your whole name.
Yes, this is Joan and Don calling on Zooming from Springfield, Virginia, where
Oh.
we don't have the pleasure of
Oh.
having a kosher market. And all I can do is thank Mark for sending us the challahs and the pumpernickel rye bread and for all the goodies. And I just have
Wow.
to tell you, if only you could come here, we need you. Thank you, Mark.
You're the sweetest. You're the best. The absolute best.
Thank you, darling.
Stay well. Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Does anyone else that hasn't had a chance to speak want to raise their hand or put anything in the chat for us? Risa says we need to make a documentary about the Crown, so we'll work on that. One of the things that jumped out at me when I was looking at Alan Smith's interview that was done way back in 1983, he talks about the personalities of the store and how it was really built and supported by people, by personalities. It was not simply a building that sold things. And rare, I believe, was the customer who would walk in there and not be on a first name basis with most of the people there. Either they loved them or they didn't love them, but at that point, and it was still a very personal experience, both shopping there and going in there and meeting the people. Sunday morning, 6:20 a.m., Albany Avenue, Lower Albany Avenue was an experience in itself. It seemed like the whole town was there. So it seems like that captures a lot of the community aspect of the store and how it was a meeting place, and I didn't know Sunday morning at 6 a.m. seems early to me, but
Yeah. Very accurate.
Yeah.
So with that, I'd just like to thank Mark for his great sharing, and everybody for all your memories that you've shared here tonight. And as I said, this will be recorded and posted on our website within the next few days. And we congratulate the Crown on its anniversary, and hope it'll be part of the community for many years to come.
Thank you, Beth. And I would ask people if they can to help support the Historical Society. Without the society, these type of things are not possible. So I implore you to just remember that these things do take a little bit of resources. But thank you, Beth, for having me, and thank everybody for taking time out of your busy schedule to add to this. It was really nice to hear from people and see people, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Mark.
much. We appreciate you.
Thank
Mark.
you. Thank
Beth?
you.
Yes.
Hi, David Seltzer, wherever you are.
Hi, Rolnix. I'm in
Hi there.
DC.
Hi, yeah. You're all grown up. What happened?
I don't, you blinked.
Right, right.
Beth?
Yes.
Hi, David Silver here. I actually helped to initiate this
Yes, you did. We
meeting. It was
appreciate that.
fascinating. You know, people don't realize also that it's a little better now, but during the height of the pandemic, I feel like the Crown was the only place you could see people because the synagogues were shut, and it was really, and by the way, I'm always thinking of numbers. This year would be, it's twice as long the Crown has been the Bishop's Corner that was in Hartford. So hopefully many more years to come.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's very, very interesting.
Thank you.
And thank you,
Thanks,
David,
Mark.
for helping us get this program together and connecting me.
Sure. Real interesting.
out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
And let's all increase our support of the Crown too.
Amen.
There
Amen.
you go.
Thank you, Marshall. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
Mark.
you.
Have a good night, everybody.
Night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.